Welcome back, friends, to Build a Lot Acres. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the 20 volt Bauer 18 gauge brad nailer. Stay tuned. So if you're newer to the channel, we do have a number of different videos showcasing Bauer tools. I'm going to put some of those in the description below of this video, and if you want to check them out, you can. But anyone that's done any kind of construction knows one of the tools you use the most are nail guns. I'm old enough to remember back in the early to mid 1990s, we didn't use framing guns, we didn't use roofing guns, we didn't use finish guns, we didn't use brad nailers. Everything was pretty much nailed by hand, and then around that time was when you really started seeing nail guns come onto the scene. The first ones I really remember were the boss stitch, and it wasn't long after that we got these pass load guns. These are framing guns. These are meant for framing houses, nailing, 2x together, sheathing on roofs, things like that. And we had at one point, I'm gonna say probably 12 of these guns, maybe 15 of them. We actually used to buy pallets of nails. We would get an entire 4-foot by 4-foot pallet, stacked 2 or 3 feet high of framing nails. Those could be 16 penny, 8 penny, whatever we needed. And we would get a free pass load gun with each pallet of nails we bought. So over the course of building dozens and dozens of houses, it really added up. And like I said, at one point we had 12 to 15 of those framing guns. And then on the other end of the spectrum for guns, you had these little guns. This is an 18 gauge brad nail. You can see the nails in there. These are commonly used for finish work when you want to nail, finer pieces of moldings and things. And you don't need a big nail to hold it. Something like these 18 gauge brad nails are really handy. People that have done construction know one of the biggest pains of nail guns with traditional air fittings like this is you have to set up an air compressor, air hoses. You might only need to nail 5, 6, 8 nails, but you got to set up the compressor, you got to set up hoses. It can really turn into a hassle. And that's why I'm really excited to feature this Bauer 20 volt 18 gauge brad nailer. Now, I don't know if Bauer offers other sizes. Typically with finish guns, you're going to have 15 gauge angled finish guns. You might have 16 gauge straight finish guns, 18 gauge brad nailers. Difference between a finish gun and a brad nail. A brad is just a smaller nail, smaller head. It's meant for finer trim and more delicate nailing. They also have pinless guns, so technically the nail doesn't have a head, and those are for really fine jobs and moldings. Those might be something like a 22 gauge pin gun. So with that said, let me tell you some of the specs on this tool. I'm going to read this right off the box. So it takes obviously 18 gauge brad nails. It takes up to 105 nails. Typically they'll come in these long clips. So I'm going to guess most nail guns I've used in the past for finish work will take maybe 2 or 3 clips depending on how big your clips are. But it will take 105 brad nails. It will take ranging from 3/4 inch to 2 inch. So depending on how big your molding is, the length of your fastener can change, but these can take anywhere from 3/4 inch all the way up to 2 inch brad nails. And the net weight is 5.7 pounds. And Bauer does recommend using a 3 amp hour or bigger battery. If you're not familiar, batteries come in different sizes. Bauer's go from 1.5 amp hour all the way up to 12 amp hour for the biggest of jobs. And if you want to see videos about Bauer batteries and the differences and testing, please check out the description below. Oh, it comes with nails. It actually has some weight to it. I'm a little surprised. If you actually look, it's definitely bigger than a lot of your regular 18 gauge guns are going to be. So if the length, see that it's definitely a bigger tool. And you can definitely feel the weight difference from this. I'm going to guess this probably weighs like 1.5, 2 pounds. It's definitely a lot lighter. So if you were doing a lot of overhead nailing, I can already tell that this is going to wear you out a lot quicker than your traditional air gun. But you're not going to have air hoses dragging through the house, which is one of the things I want to talk about. Now, typically speaking, obviously, finished work is typically going to be inside of a house. So not only do you have to set up the air compressor, the air hoses, but you're also dragging these hoses through someone's house. By the time you get to a finished stage, it's most likely either going to be a new house that's pretty much almost ready to move in and you're doing the final touches with finish work, or it's a house that's already lived in and you're doing maybe remodeling work, a new kitchen, new doors, something to that effect. So dragging hoses through people's houses, they might have really expensive rugs or cabinets, and hoses can be destructive. They can have stuff on them, they can be dirty, and they can get kinked up, twirled, caught. So it can just be a hassle dealing with air hoses all the time, which is why you're seeing so many people go from these traditional air-powered framing nailers to cordless options. So let's take a better look. So to put the nails in, you squeeze, pull down, rather than open the box of nails they gave us. Let's just transfer these. So we're just going to put them into the slide. You can see here, I think these are 1 1/4 inch nails, and you can go up to that 2 inch if you so desired. Let's go grab a battery and try it out. So we've got this 3/4 inch piece of pine. This is a material that you would commonly see used in finish work applications. So let's go try it out, see how the nail gun performs. All right, so what do I think so far? Well, obviously, having just opened it 5 minutes ago, I can't give much of a review, but here's my initial thoughts, having been in the construction industry for about the last 30 years. The first one I noticed right off the bat, like I already said, is the weight. I think this is a heavy tool compared to a lot of finish guns that I have used. I've used Porter Cable, Senko, Bostitch, all kinds of different brands of finish guns, and I noticed this is quite heavy. And the bigger the battery you put on this, the heavier it's going to get. But even with no battery in it, probably weighs, I'm going to say 3 times what that Porter Cable 18 gauge brad nail weighs. Another thing I noticed that you probably noticed as well is there's a little bit of a delay, maybe half a second to a second. We hear it click on before it shoots the nail. So if you were in more of a production setting, maybe you were inside of a factory building rooms, or maybe you're a production finished carpenter and you're expected to go fairly quickly, trimming out new houses or whatever it is, that extra half a second or a second per nail really would add up. If you have to nail off an entire door casing and you might use 15 nails, that's 15 seconds you're getting delayed, and that could kind of screw you up with your timing, shooting your moldings into place. I know I tend to work fairly fast, so that might drive me a little nuts. But I will say though, I don't have any intentions of getting rid of my traditional air tools. This is going to be more for jobs where it's kind of a pain to set up a compressor, or a small job. Maybe I only shoot 10 or 15 nails. I'm installing, just a couple pieces of molding. That's where this tool I think is really going to come in handy. So with all that said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to see my other Bauer videos, please check down below in the description. And maybe in the future date, we will showcase this tool in more action. I'll give you a long-term review. See you next time.